You can't understand how powerfully racist that question is, can you? Because you could never ask a white author, when are you going to write about black people?
Do you think that there is still and will forever be a black-white divide?
No. It's only kept alive because it's useful. When it stops being useful, they'll get rid of it.
Useful to whom?
To white people. They need it.
Toni Morrison is the first African-American woman to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. She's one of the most celebrated authors in the world. In addition to writing plays and children's books, her novels have earned her countless prestigious awards, including the Pulitzer Prize and the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Barack Obama.
Now, how do you view black-white relations? Do you think that there is still and will forever be a black-white divide?
No. It's only kept alive because it's useful. When it stops being useful, they'll get rid of it.
Useful to whom?
To white people. They need it.
Well, that is attributing a kind of willful intent.
Of course it's willful. It's irrational. Everybody knows it doesn't make any sense. But they hang on to this totally unscientific, mythological, metaphorical notion of division that is wasteful. It costs a lot. It diminishes the people who feel that way. And it hurts the people who don't feel that way. When they don't need it, as in wartime, they get rid of it. When they don't need it economically, they get rid of it. But if you need it in order to solve some political problem, or to justify a land grab, or you need workers who are dependent upon you, and you can convince them that, you know, $2 an hour, $5 an hour is enough, then you use it. It has powerful utilitarian purposes.
But you are saying then that whites have a willful, malicious intent as far as... I think this is a naive question.
It's a naive question.
So it's there. I mean, this malice is there. That's why I ask you, do you think it's eradicable?
Well, it'll take some generations. But let me tell you, you cannot enslave people or kill races of people, whole races in a continent. You cannot do that as a human being unless you have persuaded yourself that that A, they are not people, or their lives are not worthy, or that you have a mission to do that. No human being can do that. You cannot do it unless you believe it is better for those people to be dead. If you can get in an airplane in Brazil and fly around and shoot Indians for sport now, you have to persuade yourself that they are sport. Now, I don't know if that's malice or psychosis, but it exists. And the people who do it know it. They know that they are living a lie.
Do you think that there is something inherent in us, in whites, that undervalues someone whose skin is not the same color as ours?
It's not inherent at all. It's taught. And it's taught by theologians. It's been taught by scientists. Racism is a scholarly affair. It is totally ingrained in the education that we receive. The history, encyclopedias are full of outrageous claims about whiteness and about blackness. You can feel better, no matter what your pitiful little life is like, no matter how many times you lose, no matter how poor your existence. If you encounter a black person, you can feel better.
You have in your writing certainly marginalized whites. Why are they of no particular interest to you, or seemingly no particular interest?
Well, I was interested in another kind of literature that was not just confrontational, black versus white. I was really interested in black readership. And I wanted to do, I think, for me, the allegory or the parallel is black music. which is as splendid and complicated and wonderful as it is, because its audience was within its primary audience. The fact that it has become universal, worldwide, anyone, everyone can play it, and it has evolved, is because it wasn't tampered with and editorialized within the community. So I wanted the literature that I wrote to be that way. I could just go straight to where the soil was, where the fertility was in this landscape. And also, I wanted to feel free not to have the white gaze in this place that was so precious to me, which is the work.
And you will maintain this safe place for yourself, for your art? You don't think you will ever change and write books that incorporate white lives into them substantially?
I have done.
In a substantial way?
You can't understand how powerfully racist that question is, can you? Because you could never ask a white author, when are you going to write about black people? Whether he did or not, or she did or not. Even the inquiry comes from a position of being in the center.
And being used to being in the center.
And being used to being in the center. And saying, you know, is it ever possible that you will enter the mainstream? It's inconceivable that where I already am is the mainstream.
Oh no, that wasn't the implication of my question. I think you are very, very much in the mainstream. It's a question of the subject of your narrative, whether you want to alter the parameters of it, whether you see any benefit in doing that, or will you clearly see disadvantages in doing it from your own point of view?
Artistic disadvantages. There are no pluses for me. Being an African-American writer is sort of like being a Russian writer who writes about Russia, in Russian, for Russians. And the fact that it gets translated and read by other people is a benefit. It's a plus. But he's not obliged to ever consider writing about French people or Americans or anybody.
Toni Morrison was born on February 18, 1931 in Lorain, Ohio, the second of 4 children. Morrison's birth name was Chloe Anthony Wofford. Although she grew up in a semi-integrated area, racial discrimination was a constant threat. When Morrison was 2 years old, the owner of her family's apartment building set their home on fire while they were inside because they were unable to afford the rent. Morrison turned her attention to her studies and became an avid reader. She was able to use her intellect on the debate team, as school's yearbook staff, and eventually as a secretary for the head librarian at the Lorain Public Library. When she was 12 years old, she converted to Catholicism and was baptized under the name Anthony after Saint Anthony of Padua. She later went by the nickname Toni after the saint. In 1949, Morrison decided to attend a historical black institution for her college education. She moved to Washington, D.C. to attend Howard University. While in college, Morrison experienced racial segregation in a new way. She joined the university's theater group called the Howard University Player and frequently toured the segregated South with play. In addition, she witnessed how racial hierarchy divided people of color based on their skin tone. However, the community at Howard University also allowed her to make connections with other writers, artists, and activists that influenced her work. After graduating with a bachelor's degree in English, Morrison attended Cornell University to earn a Master of Arts in English. When she graduated in 1955, she began teaching English at Texas Southern University, but returned to Howard University as a professor. While back at the university, Morrison taught the young civil rights activist Stokely Carmichael and met her husband, Harold Morrison. The couple had 2 children, Harold and Slade. After teaching at Howard University for 7 years, Morrison moved back to Syracuse, New York to become an editor for the textbook division of Random House Publishing. Within 2 years, she transferred to the New York City branch of the company and began to edit fictions and books by African-American authors. Although she worked for a publishing company, Morrison did not publish her first work, called The Bluest Eye, until she was 39 years old. 3 years later, Morrison published her second novel called Sula, that was nominated for the National Book Award. By her third novel in 1977, Toni Morrison became a household name. Kindly share your thoughts in the comment box below and do not forget to like this video. Until next time, cheers and have a good one.